All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our right whale cocktail and mocktail tutorial. My name is Brian Sharp. I'm director of IFAW's Marine Mammal Rescue and Research Team.
And I'm Sarah Sharp. I'm the animal rescue veterinarian for IFAW.
Thank you for joining us tonight for this kickoff to our fundraiser that we're going to be having next week. I'd like to thank some of the staff who graciously agreed to volunteer. It was not hard to find volunteers when they found out that what they were volunteering for was to make drinks. So tonight, joining us on screen, we have Nicole Fox, C.T. Harry, Kim Jones, Deb Kosh, Jennifer Levine, Vicky Montanaro, Robin Rainier, Kathy Nicholas, and Sabrina Foley. And they're going to be joining us and working with us as we make our cocktails this evening. I also want to acknowledge for this event our right whale level sponsor Integral, which is making this possible. So I want to thank them.
So we'd like to take this time to welcome you all and to invite you to our virtual Party for a Porpoise event, which will be going on same place virtually and same time next Monday at 8 p.m. So we're excited to have you all join us for that as well. And that is a fundraiser that benefits both our marine mammal rescue and conservation work that IFAW does around the world. And so you might be wondering why we're here tonight to mix up a right whale cocktail or mocktail. And really what we wanted to do is raise awareness of the fact that there's less than 400 North Atlantic right whales left in existence, and to raise awareness also of all the work that IFAW is doing, from on the ground to halls of Congress to working with our partners in Canada to help protect this critically endangered species. So thank you all for being here tonight.
Thanks, everybody. And without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest mixologist for this evening, Naomi Levy, who is an award-winning bartender and was voted Best of Boston 2019. So with that, I'll turn it over to Naomi to take the reins.
Thank you so much, Brian and Sarah. I'm so excited to be here and to have created this cocktail for you and for such a great cause. We're going to be making the right whale cocktail. It's a really fun drink. We also have a mocktail version of it. I'm going to be showing you how to make both versions. But first, we got to prepare our ingredients. So this cocktail has 2 ingredients we're going to need to prepare. The first is very simple. We're just going to be squeezing some fresh lime juice. And the second is we're going to be making a salted blueberry syrup. Also very, very simple. You'll just need a blender to make that, but otherwise really no special equipment needed for these cocktails. So when it comes to making a great cocktail, you want to start with great fresh ingredients. So using fresh squeezed lemon or lime juice in a cocktail is really important. So whenever we are going to do our juice, we're going to start off with our nice whole fruit and cut it in half. Kind of, I guess I call it horizontally, right? With like the little nubs at either end like this. And maybe you have a hand juicer like I do. Maybe you have a little electric juicer. Whatever you have, we can talk about a couple ways. So please just shout out, hey, I don't have any of those things. I'm also going to show you just how to use your hands to juice as well. When we're juicing, we are going to use some sort of fine mesh strainer to strain out the pulp. When it comes to making cocktails, we're using really, really small amounts of really flavorful ingredients. And the pulp isn't actually adding a whole lot of flavor. It's just taking up volume in our measurement. So we want to just take that out. So I'm just going to line my strainer right over my bowl and put my lime in. These guys look like your lime should kind of fit in like that, but you actually want to do it opposite so that you're sort of completing the sphere and the skin, the exposed side, the cut side is face down. And I'm just going to give that a little squeeze right through my strainer. Anytime you're juicing, no matter what tools you're using, you don't want to go too gung-ho. You just want to squeeze it until you get the juice out. If you squeeze too hard, if you press too hard on an electric juicer, you're just going to start to get that pith, which is really bitter, and we don't want that. If you don't have any sort of tool to juice with, as I said, that's fine because you have hands. So in that case, you're just going to cut your lime in half again and just squeeze it right through your strainer into your bowl, and you have nice, fresh squeezed lime juice. And it's really easy to have. Lemons and limes keep for a long time in the fridge, so if you always kind of have them around, it's always easy to have a nice, fresh cocktail with fresh ingredients. I do, however, recommend just pulling your fruit out of the fridge a little early if you know you're going to be making cocktails, because they juice better at room temperature than at fridge temperature. All right, so now that we have our lime juice, we're going to go ahead and make our syrup. So both of these ingredients we are going to be using in both the cocktail or the mocktail. So as I said, you're going to need a blender, but first we're going to make a little salt water. So I'm going to measure just a half of a cup of hot water. I have a little Insta-Hot thing. I don't have a sink by me right now, but if you have a sink, if you just kind of run that hot water for a minute and get it nice and hot, that's fine. You don't need to boil it or anything like that. Warm to hot is really all you're looking for. We're just going to be dissolving some salt in here. So I'm just doing a half of a cup of my hot water and half of a tablespoon of sea salt. If you don't have sea salt, kosher salt will do in a pinch. That's fine as well. And you're just going to give it a little stir until that salt is nice and dissolved and you don't see all of those little chunks anymore. All right, so now let's get to the fun stuff. Let's get to those blueberries. In our blender, we are gonna do 1 cup of fresh blueberries. And I did the like TV chef thing. I pre-measured it into a cute little bowl. So this is 1 cup of fresh blueberries and 1 cup of granulated sugar. I'm gonna go ahead and blend this, keeping that little top part open because I'm gonna pour in my salt water as I start to blend. So it's gonna get loud for a second. That's it. How easy is that, right? 30 seconds and you have this really lovely, really flavorful syrup. So the very last step is just that we're gonna strain out this syrup. We don't want any of those little chunks of blueberries that still might be in there. So I'm just using this very sexy quart container and a bigger fine mesh strainer. And I'm just gonna strain my syrup right out. Once your syrup is strained and done, this will keep in the fridge for 2 to 4 weeks. At about 2 weeks, just give it a little taste. But when you make kind of a big batch like this, it's very easy to keep and have these delicious cocktails all the time. All right, so let's make a cocktail now that we have our ingredients prepped. Well, we need to start off with something to shake in. We're gonna shake this cocktail. So I'm using a 2-piece Boston shaker set where I'm gonna put my ingredients in here and shake it up. If you don't have a 2-piece shaker set like this, perhaps you have one of these 3-piece shaker sets where you'll be putting all the ingredients in like so, and it has this little built-in strainer. If you don't have something like that, something kind of that's a little more bar-y, I actually really recommend using like a Yeti or travel coffee mug. Make sure that it does have a top that fully closes. There's no little mouth hole that doesn't seal. Those are insulated, so they get your drink really nice and cold. If you don't have something like that, Tupperware, right? Anything with a lid will work. You don't need anything fancy to shake your cocktail. So we're gonna go ahead and start off by measuring our ingredients into our glass. Measuring is one of the most important parts of cocktail making. As I said, we're using really huge flavors when it comes to making cocktails. It's a little more like baking than it is like cooking. We want to be really precise with those measurements so that we have a beautiful, well-balanced cocktail. So for our right whale cocktail, we're going to be starting off with 2 ounces of white rum. I'm actually using local New England rum, Privateer, to kind of add to it as well. Definitely recommend this, but any white rum will do. And when you are filling a measurement tool, so this one that I have here, this is a professional bar jigger. It's 2 ounces on one side and 1 ounce on the other. Maybe you have something that looks more like this, which is your pot style jigger that has the little line measurements. If you don't have something like that, you can actually go right back to using your teaspoons, or your tablespoon teaspoon set. 1 tablespoon is equal to half of an ounce, all right? So if you're using a tablespoon set, I will remind you of what kind of the proportions are there as well. But whatever we're doing, we always want to fill it to the meniscus. We really want to get our measurements to the tippy top. So Heather, if you'll show on the close-up, yeah, oh my God, I didn't need to tell you, you know. So we're really going all the way to the top, and then tip it right in. You can see that I was holding my jigger right next to the glass. That way, all I had to do was tip it right in. I didn't have to try and get it from far away and spill everywhere. So 2 ounces of our white rum starts us off. Next up, we are going to do 3/4 of an ounce of our salted blueberry syrup. And finally, 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice. And I know I just said finally, but that was a total lie because there is one more ingredient, and that is some nice fresh basil. And I'm just going to pick off a few leaves, like 2 to 3 leaves, kind of depending on how big your basil is. I'm just going to put it right in the glass. I'm not muddling it or anything. The ice is going to do the work for me. So if you don't want an alcoholic version, it's a very easy switch to make the right whale cocktail into a right whale mocktail. So right here, I just have some chamomile tea. It's just a bag of chamomile tea that I steeped while it was hot. I let it steep for way too long, and that's the point. We want it to kind of develop some tannins because alcohol has tannins, so this will sort of mimic that mouthfeel for you a little bit more. And I let it come to room temp, and then I just took out the tea bag and put it right into my little bottle, put that in the fridge. And this is going to be my base for my non-alcoholic version of this. So we're doing 2 ounces of our nice chilled, over-steeped chamomile tea. And then once again, 3/4 of an ounce of our salted blueberry syrup.
Naomi, sorry to interrupt. There's a question about, is it okay to use regular rum instead of white rum if they don't have the white rum?
What does regular rum mean? I guess is the question. Do they have is it a dark rum? Or a gold rum? I would say if you have like a gold rum, I think that's fine. What I would probably, gold rum. I think the gold rum will be just fine. What I would avoid is something that's like very dark rum because that's just gonna be a little heavy for this cocktail. But I think a gold rum, you will be great. Awesome. Are there any other questions? We're good? Cool. All right, so I have my chamomile in here. I have my blueberry, and now I'm going to add my 3/4 of an ounce of fresh squeezed lime juice to my right whale mocktail. And then of course, once again, this nice fresh, wow, look at this guy, big one, nice fresh basil. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and shake up my mocktail and my cocktail. So we're gonna add ice. I'm gonna start off with the mocktail, and we're gonna fill it all the way to the top with ice. If you have one of these 2-piece sets, you're now gonna cap it with the metal part. When you do it, you actually don't wanna go straight up and down. You want one side to be flush with one side so that you can see here, the side's kind of flush and here it's coming away. That's what you want. Just give it a little press to make sure it's sealed. If you lift the top part and the bottom comes with it, you're good to go. This seal is just going to become stronger as we get this drink nice and cold because the metal's going to contract around the glass. So how long do you shake it for? Well, really it's just until it's done. So shake your cocktail and taste it along the way. That's the best way to know if your cocktail is complete. All right, to get our cocktail open, if you're using one of these 2-piece shaker sets, there's sort of a magic point right where the metal is coming away from the glass. That's where you want to give it a little hit. So if you're holding it and where the glass and metal are connected are at 6 o'clock and you're right-handed like me, you're going to use your palm to hit the metal part right about at 4 o'clock or so. That'll break the seal and pop it right open. I'm going to do this again with the cocktail so you'll get to see it all over again. And we're going to go ahead and double strain this. So if you have one of those 3-piece shakers, your first strainer is already built in. But we are going to use a second little tea strainer. That's just going to hold back all those little bits of basil. And we have this beautiful, beautiful color for our cocktail. And let's do this one more time with the punchier version with the rum. So once again, I'm going to be adding my ice all the way to the top, capping it with it flush along one side and giving it a little shake. When it comes to learning your shake, always err on the side of caution. You can always shake a cocktail more. You can't unshake a cocktail. And when we shake a cocktail, especially when with booze in it like this, we're not just getting it cold, we're also adding water. And water is sort of the secret ingredient of all cocktails. It's gonna be what makes those flavors come together. So if I shake it just a little, and I'll give it a little taste here, demo. Woo. So it kind of tastes like booze, and then blueberries, and then lime. I can taste all of the ingredients, but I can't taste them all together. They're very disjointed. So that's how I know that this cocktail isn't quite ready. We really want them all to sing. So I'm going to shake it a little more. And give it a little taste. Wow, so different. It's still nice and tart. I get that, you know, that nice liminess, but it's not kind of giving me that puckering feeling in the sides of my cheeks the way it was before. I get the blueberry, I get the rum, but not one is jumping out more than the other. So that's how I know it's ready. If it's still, you know, puckering a little, if it's still a little hot, right? We want to taste the booze, we don't want it to be hot. Give it just 1 or 2 more shakes. 1 or 2 more shakes can actually make a huge difference in a cocktail. All right, so we'll go ahead and strain out our right well cocktail. And now we're going to garnish these guys. So we're just going to pick a nice little piece of basil and to bring out the aroma and bring out the oil, we're gonna give it a little slap. All right, and then right on top, once again, a little slap, right on top, and we have our right whale mocktail and right whale cocktail. I'm gonna take a sip of the chamomile mocktail. Cheers. So there's a question that says, if you don't love basil, would mint work? Absolutely. And you know what? In these times, use what you've got, right? If you don't have basil and you have mint, use it. If you don't have either and you have parsley, that would actually be really tasty as well. Just a little bit more savory than the other two. I would say just choose a soft herb, right? So not like a rosemary or a thyme, something like a basil, a mint, a parsley. Honestly, even cilantro, I think, would be really tasty. Cool. Any other questions? Let's see. Can you put the drink on the rocks? Absolutely. Whether you have a drink up or on the rocks is absolutely based on your preference. When you are doing a drink on the rocks, just strain it over fresh ice. So the same way we did into this up glass, just over fresh ice. What that's going to do is basically stop the melting process of the ice that's already in our shaker tin so that your cocktail lasts longer and you can sip it at your own pace.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Naomi. We really enjoyed that. I learned a lot about that was super fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. We really were honored to have you here. I also just wanted to thank again Integral for their sponsorship of the Rightwell event as well, and pass it to you.
Yeah. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight, all the staff, all the friends, all the family, and all the IFAW supporters that are out there who joined us for this fun evening of making cocktails at home virtually. Please raise your glass, and here's a toast to Party for Porpoise. We hope to see you next week. Cheers.
Cheers.
See you August 10th. Good night, everyone.